This is Sports 845 with Darin, Kunis, and Dick O'Neill.
It is January 10th, 2024. This is the first show of the 2024 season. We took off for the holidays. To my right, the legendary basketball coach and the best-looking guy in the room, in any room he goes into, legendary Dick O'Neill. And to my left, and I thank him for joining us. He's been a friend of the show for a long time, a friend of mine, Jim Kelly, the great coach at Middletown who recently retired. Before Jim talks about Section 9, Jim was the head coach, has a 26-year coaching career, all with Middletown. All at Middletown. Three-time Section 9 champ. And in 2015, 2016, he was the state runner-up, the furthest the school has ever gone, losing to St. Thomas Aquinas in Glens Falls?
It was.
In Glens Falls. Yep. Before we get to that, though, Dick, how was your holiday?
Very good. Recovering a little bit, but very good. I just, at my age, it's pretty slow these days.
Did you get any nice gifts?
Oh, I did. Every gift I get is nice.
No crappy gifts?
No, every gift I get is nice. They know me well.
Yes, and basically your whole life has been a gift. Did Diane like her presents?
That's questionable. Yeah, that's questionable.
I went down to Allie's.
Uh-huh.
She made me a wonderful dinner. It was great. Prime rib, potatoes, got a lot of nice gifts, had a great time. Then I got sick. Was out for about a week. And yesterday had a prostate exam at the age of 55. You have to get a prostate exam. I know you go like 3 times a week for one. But I went. It was fun. It was done. It wasn't fun, but it was done. And everything is good.
That's
the doc and I are, we're probably going to have 1 or 2 more dinners.
I understand.
But then I'm going to call it off.
I got you.
Jim, tell us about Section 9 basketball. Last year, Goshen was the story. Your son played at Goshen, was playing at Goshen this year, and to be honest, was a Player of the Year candidate. Wow. He's out for the season, so if you want to start, we could start with the Gladiators in Goshen.
Okay.
Your thoughts?
I think Sal D'Angelo and Coach Dombrowski have done an amazing job last couple of years. They graduated, 10. It's a rebuilding year. It's tough. They're super young. They have some really good talent coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, Jimmy went down with an injury.
Let's talk about your son. Jimmy is a big kid. What is he, about 6'4"?
6'4" and a half.
6'4", 6'5".
Yep.
He's a sophomore?
Sophomore.
Can handle the ball, can play pretty much anywhere in the court, the games that I saw. And a very high basketball IQ, which, a coach's son should have and does. And he exhibits that during the game. Jimmy, when I watched your son play, he would fill up the stat sheet, and he always knew where to be and made some incredible passes. Always found the open man, and he could knock down the jump shot. He could also score inside. So it's a big loss for the Gladiators. I don't know. He had an injury. I don't know what you want to disclose, what you don't, but he's out for the season.
He is. He just had surgery down in Manhattan, and he's recovering well. He loves the game. It's killing him, but he's on the bench supporting his teammates, and he wish he could be out there. But unfortunately, that bone was pressing on his Achilles tendon. So, right now that's number one. They took the pressure off. They shaved the bone down. He's going to be fine. It was a minor surgery, but it's going to take.
But something that takes a while to heal.
I haven't heard of that one before. That's a strange one.
It is.
It's probably a growing thing, right?
It's called the Haglund's deformity, and it's common with soccer players. It's common with dancers for putting pressure on their toe. But he's going to come back strong, and he's going to be back. It had to be done because he would have hurt his Achilles tendon. So
yeah, you can't take a chance, especially a kid that wants to play at the next level. You don't want to end a career to play 8 more high school basketball games. Absolutely. Jim, before we get back to Section 9, 26 years as a coach. You're young. You're not an old guy like my partner here. Why'd you retire?
Just so I could watch my kids play. I was miserable last year. I was missing all their games. Mm-hmm. I have also twins that are in 8th grade, boy, girl, Sean and Andrea, and they both play JV for Goshen. Last year, I missed almost all their games. I made it to 4 or 5 games out of their schedule. And I just kind of looked in the mirror and said, "What am I doing? I really, really want to be there. As much as I love Middletown basketball, and I still do, and I'm still a part of it. Helping out any way I can. Coach E.J. Harrison is doing a great job. He is a phenomenal guy. The program is in great hands.
So you miss it, but you made the right call.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but there's a lot of pressure for a basketball, well, for any kind of coach. If you have young kids that participate particularly much in the same sport, it's basketball is just not 2 hours a day. It's time consuming.
None of these coaches. These coaches are not just coaches. You find yourself as a parent also to many kids, or an advisor to many kids.
Absolutely, and it's weight room, it's summer league, it's scouting, it's trips, it's bonding. And
what do you miss most? The camaraderie,
the players, just the bonding. Yep, the relationships.
Who's the team to beat in Section 9 right now, today? I know it can change.
Right now,
Class A or Double A. I know they changed
Triple A.
Triple A, yeah, they changed it.
Well, Monroe, Newburgh, Kingston. I would go with Monroe first. Monroe has a deep team. They have Giancarlo Mendez, who is an all-around great player. He can shoot it. He can handle it. High IQ. He can jump. Jimmy actually played a little AAU with him, with the OC Kings, with Sal D'Angelo. And I got to see him play a lot in the summer, and he really impresses me.
They played this week.
Game.
They played this week.
Newburgh, Monroe.
Yeah.
Monroe beat Newburgh, correct?
Oh, did they? I don't know. They were down 8 at half, Monroe.
But those are the teams.
I'm not. They did have a head-to-head. I'm not quite sure who won.
Yeah.
But I really like Newburgh. I think El Nathan Johnson, the guard that they have, is another stud.
Mm-hmm.
Last year in the fourth quarter, he had 5 3-pointers, I think, late in the game.
So he's a shooter.
36, shooter, handler, just a tough kid, defender. I really like his game. And Kingston, they have.
Kingston should be good every year.
They're tough.
And they are
good. They are good.
good.
Coach Kelder does a great job. He demands the best out of them. And Kamonte Thaw is a guard that's very shifty. He can shoot the three. He can defend. He can pass. Those three, I think, are the top.
Where's Middletown?
Top, studs in AAA. Middletown's having a rough one right now. They've been very close in games. They just lost by 4 to Newburgh the other day. They're just struggling putting the ball in the hole. But they have some really good players. Baker Jimenez is leading the team in scoring. He can shoot it really well. But they're inexperienced. I don't want to say
they're a little young.
They're not young, but they're inexperienced. They have 8 seniors. But a lot of them didn't really see too much playing time. So they're taking their lumps, but they can be in any game.
AAA, Newburgh, Monroe, and Kingston are the 3 teams that you feel will battle it out in AAA, which is the new term for the bigger schools.
The highest level, yes.
Double A, last year, Goshen, I guess they got within a game of a state title or 2 games.
That loss to Tappan Zee was tough.
Yeah, it's the second time they lost to them that year. But close games. And
both were terrific games.
Both were terrific. Both were close. And, hats off to Tappan Zee. They were very scrappy and tough.
So who in Double A is the team right now?
Well, now you have Washingtonville and you have Valley Central down in Double A.
Mm-hmm.
So that's different. That now Goshen has to battle with them. You have Monticello, very tough.
Yeah.
Coach Russo does an amazing job up there.
Yeah. You know what I like about talking Section 9? All the coaches that we always have in, they all complement each other, not just in football, but in basketball. You guys are all friendly. You guys all share tape, I assume. Absolutely. And you all genuinely root for each other once the season's over. That's your favorite team, the team that goes on to states.
Absolutely.
Is there a local team in Section 9 this year that could vie for a state title? Or is it going to be, are they all just very good, but not at that level?
That's a tough question. I think
got to wait for it to play out.
Yeah, I mean, you got to wait. You never know what you're going to see at the next.
Everybody
I
talk to is Lords up
to
Gibson.
Yeah, Lords.
They tell me they got size. They've got.
Yes.
They have everything pretty much from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, the kid. What's his name here? Patrick Fawn. He's a stud. Mm-hmm. They have a big kid named Zach Hart. And then they have I think a sophomore who's pretty athletic, Sonny Batchelor,
there you go.
who played in the Bronx with my son down in the summer, and He's super tough, super athletic.
Yeah.
So Lords
are they
is
double A or an A?
Lords is double A.
Lords is double A.
Oh, so
They would have been triple A. No, I'm sorry. They were. Yeah, I get confused
no,
with the changes.
No. They're
Yeah,
double A.
Yeah, they're definitely
double A now. They're double
I
A.
would say they're the team to beat in the double A's.
Lords is tough.
Yeah.
And they were tough last year.
Every year.
I thought that the Section 9 championship at Monroe, when Goshen played Lords, Goshen had to play way harder and tougher against Lords than against Tappan Zee. And I thought they played out of their mind. I mean, I thought Goshen really played well against Lords. But I thought Lords was better than Tappan Zee.
Yeah.
Really?
Last year. Absolutely.
You know, a lot of people thought that Tappan Zee wasn't all that good. But if you watch them enough, they were tough.
They're scrappy. They're tough.
Yeah. And
They played very good defense.
And they believe in each other, boy.
They made
really
eight.
believe
They
in
made
each
8
other.
3-pointers.
Yeah, they do.
And we made none.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I mean, we struggled a little bit shooting.
Yeah.
But hats off to them. They're scrappy. They went on to win a state championship.
Yeah, they did.
Is Goshen a playoff team this year without your son?
I think they could be.
They could be.
I think they could be. They have a point guard who transferred from Don Bosco, Kyle Luong, who could go for 20 any given night.
And with a coach like Sal, they're going to get better and better every game.
Sal has great stuff. He's pushing them every day. They have Jake, who's a sophomore, who's super physical, football player. But they have some young guards. Seamus Smith can shoot the ball, and they have a guard. I'm trying to think of his name. Gene Lewis, who's super athletic. And they didn't really see too much time last year. Because they were on JV or they didn't play over the seniors. But once they get comfortable and start knocking down some shots, anything can happen.
I was telling Darin when I came in, that Cornwall's got a transfer in from Indiana, a 6'3" sophomore.
Really?
His dad averaged about 15 at Purdue. He's the assistant at Army now, and his mother was a volleyball player at Purdue.
Oh, wow.
And he's 6'3". He wasn't eligible, but I watched him warm up against Valley Central, and he looks like the real deal, and he's a great-looking kid. He's a really nice-looking kid. And
what year is he?
Yeah, what grade is he?
Sophomore.
Okay.
And my daughters, who teach at Cornwall, both went in to watch him practice, and they say he's the real deal. So we'll see what happens there.
I mean, a player can change a team.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no question. Yeah.
The smaller schools, Jimmy, anything stand out?
Well, I know Burke Catholic has the O'Boyle, and that kid is tough.
Okay.
And Ryan Shust, so I know Burke is always tough. They were tough last year, and they have he's one of the best shooters, I think, in Section 9.
Yeah.
I watched him grow up playing CYO. I'm a big fan of him. And Ryan Shust is just a scrappy all-around.
He had a brother
tough
that
kid.
played
Yes.
at Burke.
Yes,
Football and
no, he's a soccer
and
player
soccer.
at Bellarmine.
yeah,
In-
we asked where the hell that school is. They play everybody.
In
That school,
Louisville.
Bellarmine or whatever. It's called.
Bellarmine.
Yeah, Bellarmine. They play
If
everybody.
you're from Kentucky, it's Bellarmine.
Okay.
Okay.
If you're not from Kentucky, it's Bellarmine.
And Shust's father was a hell of a baseball player, so that family's super
Yeah,
athletic.
sure.
Great family.
I watched them play the other night, and they're very physical. They were very physical.
Jimmy, you mentioned some kids today, and obviously this could change. Give me 3 or 4 guys that could vie for Player of the Year.
This year for Player of the Year,
Yeah, candidates.
I think it depends on how far the team goes and what they do, but I really like Jean Carlos Mendoza of Monroe.
Mm-hmm. How big is he?
He's around, I want to say 6'1", 6'2".
Okay, so he's a guard.
But he can jump, he can shoot it, he can pass it, and he brings a lot of energy. He's got a high motor.
Yeah.
I like him. I like L. Nathan Johnson from Newburgh. Just a tough, typical Newburgh gritty kid that really gets into it, doesn't shy away from anything. Matter of fact, those two went at it in the Bicany Summer Hoops Fest tryouts, and it got pretty heated. Watching Giancarlo and El Nathan go at each other, it got pretty physical.
They both play the same position?
Both are guards. Yeah.
So they were on each other?
Oh yeah, it was fun to watch. And then the Kamante Thaw from Kingston, you can't forget about him.
How big is he?
I want to say he's just about 6 foot. Yeah, maybe 6 foot.
Yeah.
Maybe 6'1".
Okay.
I'm not sure.
But he's not a big guard.
Not huge. No. Not tall, but shifty. Can get to the rack. He changes up speeds so well and can shoot the ball. I think those 3, depending on how far they take their team, it could be either one of them, any one of them.
You mentioned a girl. earlier.
Yes.
What's her name? What's her story?
Ashley McCullough.
Ashley McCullough. Where does she go to school?
Middletown, New York.
Middletown. Freshman. And she has D1 offers already?
She has 8 high-level D1 offers.
That's fantastic.
She's one of the best players
How big is she?
She is. I asked her today in study hall. I knew I'd be coming on. She's 5'11".
So she brings the ball up the court.
Yep.
What kind of schools are offering her?
She has right now Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Georgia, Ole Miss,
Wow.
GW, Miami, and Maryland.
Yeah.
Wow. So she is
As
the
a
real
freshman.
deal.
Her father, Kenny McCullough, played for Middletown. I got to coach him his senior year in summer league.
I know that name.
Well, the year Middletown played against Mount
The
Vernon.
grandfather's a trooper.
Okay, maybe that's where I know the name.
Yeah, Kenny.
Yep, and he's a good ref in Section
Yeah,
9.
yes,
He was
yes,
a hell of an athlete at Middletown High School.
Mhm.
And his wife, her grandmother, was also a very good basketball player, college basketball player. So what was I saying there?
But she's got all those offers. How's the team?
She's got offers. Middletown's doing well. I think they are right now. I think they're 500 right now.
Okay.
5-5.
And she's putting up good numbers.
She's playing well. She's averaging 20 points. I think she's the best player in Section 9 for the girls. I'm not too familiar with the girls, so I don't want to miss on anyone else out there. I'm a little biased.
No, but that's a good call. I mean, any offer. Listen, D2, D3, but those are big time offers.
Her dad, Kenny, I'm sorry to cut you off, but her dad, Kenny, played at Middletown the year we played Mount Vernon when Kenny was a senior and Ben Simmons was playing for Mount Vernon before he went to UConn. And Kenny had about 25 on him at Marist. I was at that game. And he went to play Division I soccer at Albany and ended up playing Division I basketball as well. So father is super athletic and a great guy. I'm happy to see Ashley doing her thing. And she has a sister, Sydney, who's I think a junior.
There's been a few girls from around here that have, Tammy Reese, Stephanie Dolson. There's been a few that have gone.
Well, the Misich girl at Walk Hill is still only a junior, and she's already committed to Navy.
Oh, okay.
She's. If you haven't seen her play, you ought to. Yeah.
Yeah,
I gotta tell you, I started watching. I watched the women's NCAA tournament last year, and you and I talked about this. The best thing that happened to the women's game was UConn losing a few times because it was. It was unwatchable to watch an NCAA game and see a score 92-20.
Yeah.
But now it's much more competitive. And Tammy Reese, when we had her on, she made a very good point. And I don't know if you'll agree with it or not. The girls play the game the right way because there's very few that can create their own shot.
Mm-hmm.
They have to play the game the right way, setting picks, passing the ball, moving screens, doing all of these things because it takes 5 to score a basket.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
When you watch some of these NBA games where it's just three-pointer.
And they're still scoring in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Running. Yeah. They're fun to watch. I enjoy it.
Jim, before I let you go, and hopefully you'll be back on and talk some more Section 9 hoops. You got no one. You have other kids to watch, but is it tough for you? Do you go to any Middletown practices? And it's a two-parter. Is it tough for you to try and help the coach and not step on his toes, or do you feel?
Well, EJ played for John Calhoun and won a national championship in '99 for Connecticut.
Okay.
So he knows basketball. He went overseas and played overseas.
Oh, okay, but still.
So when he applied for the job for JV, he's been my JV coach for the last 3 years. I saw his character. I saw how he interacted with the players. I don't need to be in practice.
No, but I'm sure you like to watch it.
I haven't been in any practices. To be honest with you, I'm so busy with my 3 kids.
Good.
But we talk a lot. If he ever needs me, I'm there. We'll go over plays if he ever needs anything. But he's totally capable. And, like I said, this is a rebuilding year for Middletown.
You got to get Jay Kunis on the staff there.
But no, I do miss it. But I'm loving the time. I'm watching my kids.
And you'll get into golf, and we'll play golf this year. You'll join Dick and I. Dick plays it. Dick loves courses that are 18 holes and free. Likes it.
We all
do.
But
we'll have a good time, and we'd love to have you back on. We do the show every Tuesday or Wednesday. We can accommodate you, and as the season progresses, we'll do that. What we're gonna do. And we got permission so far at Goshen. We're just setting up a date. We're going to do a game day.
Oh, nice.
Where right before the game,
Oh.
we'll be there for 40 minutes. You'll join us. We'll
great.
get some alumni to talk, and then once the game starts, we'll get out of there.
I do have one question real quick, and I would love to hear Coach O'Neill's view on it.
Go ahead.
Are you happy with the change with the no 1-1?
You know what? I haven't seen enough of it.
What is that?
So now the change in New York State is when you get to the 7th foul, it used to be 1-1 bonus.
Oh, team foul.
Team foul.
Yeah.
And then when you got to 10, it was double bonus.
Okay.
Well, they went away with that now, and now each quarter it resets, and on the 5th foul, you go right to 2 shots. So I'm kind of on the fence. I like it if I'm winning.
Yeah.
But at the end of the game,
listen,
if I'm
you're
down,
a good free throw shooting team, you love it.
Yeah, well,
but I'm just curious. I wonder what.
I'm watching the girls. I think it's fine with the girls.
The girls have always had it that way, right?
You're right.
Okay.
No, not always.
Oh, no?
Yeah, pretty much. I take that back. Pretty much.
So I'm
they have.
unfamiliar with
But
the girls.
but with the boys, I haven't seen enough of it.
Okay.
What I have seen is free throw shooting has been not very good
No.
at all at these high school games that I've
No.
been to, and I have no reason to understand why, because
Yeah.
there are good shooters missing free throws. I don't understand that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We got to take a break. This
See how it
portion
plays
of the
out.
show is brought to you by Holiday Mountain Ski Area. Holiday Mountain Ski Area. A good friend of mine, Michael Taylor, purchased Holiday Mountain. And I got to tell you, growing up in Monticello, that was the place to go.
Mhm.
And then it was sold. The town owned it. It was sold. It's been around forever, and it became non-existent. Michael Taylor buys it, and he has done an amazing job there in just reinventing it, getting rid of all the antiquated equipment. The only thing he can't control is the weather. And they hope to be open this weekend. Holiday Mountain Ski Resort, Holiday Mountain Ski Area in Bridgeville, New York. We'll be back right after this. January 10th, 2024, Jim Kelly was kind enough to come in and give us the Section 9 basketball report, not only for boys and for girls. That was great. That girl obviously has some future ahead of her.
Very good. She's outstanding. I saw her play last year.
Jeff, thank you for joining us. Happy, healthy New Year to you. Say hello to the legendary basketball coach, Dick O'Neill.
How you doing, Coach?
Good,
to see
Jeff.
you. Good to hear you guys.
You too. Happy New Year to you.
Same to you.
Jeff, we, now the NBA season is more than a quarter way through. The Celtics are 28-8. They lead the Eastern Conference, but the New York Knicks they're not only winning, they're fun to watch. They sit at 22-15. They made a pretty significant trade last week, and they're the only team in the league that hasn't lost in 2024. They're 5-0 since they acquired OG Anunoby. And, it was tough to see Barrett go, tough to see Quickly go, but the bottom line is you had to re-sign Quickly, and he wanted a lot of money. Maybe they would have, but OG, our first impressions when we saw him play is he's much, much bigger than we thought.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. He's a man mountain, actually, is what he is.
Jeff, your thoughts on the trade first.
I mean, listen, you got to give up. You got to give up something to get something. We as Knicks fans, we fall in love with our own. And R.J. Barrett is a great kid. He's a tireless worker. But the reality of it is that he's gonna have a long career. He's gonna put up solid numbers. But he had deficiencies in his game that just never seemed like he was gonna blossom. He's still young. But, he just has holes in his game that I don't think is ever going to get him to the level that we needed him to get. And, he's got deficiencies on the defensive side of the ball. Quickly is someone who just, he had someone in front of him. Brunson was going to be in front of him. You really couldn't put him at the 2 spot over a long haul, maybe for spots in a game. He's going to go to another team and maybe he's going to score 20 some odd a game. He's a good defensive player, but they're just, you could tell at various points of watching the Knicks that they just weren't cohesive. And this move, if for anything else, has made the Knicks a much more cohesive team. The spacing is great. OG is a terrific player. You're not going to necessarily see it in the box score every night. He deflects a ton of passes. Like you guys noted, he's big. I've seen him guard the point guard, the 2 guard, the 3, the 4, and every position on the floor so far.
Mhm.
And he is just a guy who is just a winning ball player. He's all business. I don't know if you guys caught his post game interview last night.
I did.
But the guy is literally old school, all business, and I like the deal. I'm upset that we had to give up those things. The only other thing that I would add to it is that it was about OG, but the Knicks were also desperate to bring in another big. So don't just
The negative part of the Knicks is Robinson, who was flourishing, playing great, goes down for the season. The positive is Hartenstein is really playing well, but he could be playing himself out of New York with the contract.
Really.
Listen, 100%. I mean, first of all, like what I wanted to say is that deal was important because the Knicks brought back Achua in the deal, and they needed a young live body that they can put in the middle, especially when Sims was out, and it showed that Taj Gibson just was, too long in the tooth to be playing that position. Okay, but yeah, I mean, you're looking at a situation now where they, you just see the ball movement, like you said, they are fun to watch. And,
did you hear Chauncey Billups after the game last night?
Yes, I did. I watch it. But one other thing to note about your comments about Robinson and Hartenstein is that, first of all, it just came out within the last hour that the Knicks expect Robinson back this season. Okay.
Okay.
So that's huge. And although Robinson is great, it opened up an opportunity to show Hartenstein brings a completely different skill set to the game. I mean, he's a terrific passer. You can run the offense to him. You can run the offense to Robinson. He doesn't make foul shots. So, Hartenstein in many respects has shown that the Knicks, maybe not, he hasn't shown that you can win at a playoff level, but they haven't missed a beat with him, at center, and it's opened up an opportunity for him. So, yeah, with what he's making, either it causes them to reevaluate whether they need Robinson long haul, or maybe they can put him in a deal, and maybe re-sign Hartenstein. He is a free agent at the end of the season, and he's already outplayed his contract by a ton.
Well, also, Jeff, the way he outlets passes, they're getting out on a break a whole lot more than they did when Robinson was in the lineup. And I'm not taking anything away from Robinson. I thought he was doing a great job until he went out. But Hartenstein, as he rebounds, he's turning in the air and he's getting that ball out quick, and they're getting the ball up the floor a little quicker now. So
yeah, they have looked like a completely different team, especially the last 5 games. They're even though they still were at the bottom as far as pace goes in the league, the last 5 games. I mean, like to your point, Darin, Chauncey said he watched the last 5 games and they are playing fast.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a
not
free
only
flow.
that, their defensive numbers, they've become the best defensive team in the league over the last 2 weeks.
I mean, that's because of Anobi.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, people just, it's hard to look at the box score and see his value. I mean, like I watched the Lakers Raptors game last night, and Barrett put up another, good night, and quickly put up another good night. You see that, but you could see OG have a game where he scores 9 points and he can dominate a game.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And he the bottom line is the move puts them closer to competing for a championship because of the way the team is now structured. They kept their assets. I don't know who the next big guy will be.
Well, that's my question. Let me ask you this. The trade deadline, I believe, is February 8th. Besides the trade deadline, I was looking at some guys that could be bought out. I think I sent it to you. And every one of these guys, well, not
at
everyone.
5 o'clock in the morning.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yes, 3 o'clock Colorado time. But some of these guys are guys that could really help us because we do need help on the second unit now. Alec Burks, Gallinari, Joe Harris, Gordon Hayward, Doug McDermott are some guys that could be potentially bought out. Out of those guys, is there someone there that you would like?
I mean, I don't know that I would necessarily like any of those guys. I think that the Knicks are not going to take a big swing don't expect the Knicks to take a big swing before the deadline. Look, anything can happen.
You don't expect a DeJounte Murray move?
I don't expect a DeJounte Murray. I really don't.
Is
I think
Terry Rozier a big swing?
He is a big swing because you're tying yourself up for 20 some odd million a year for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I say that I think they're going to do more of a deal, like they go out and get like a Jordan Clarkson or somebody who has less years on his contract, a little lower, that could come in, because this is what's going to happen. Deuce McBride is showing in spurts that, and I think he's going to get
well last night.
Yes, but he doesn't bring the skills. What they're missing is a guy who can create. Deuce McBride is not a creator. He'll hit. You can put him in the corner, and maybe he's going to hit like a corner three and get hot. But he's quickly got past his man at the top of the key and then drew the defense in, and then he kicked it to somebody else. McBride's not going to be that guy, so they need to replace that type of offense for the second unit. So a Clarkson, a Malcolm Brogdon, these are the names that have been bandied about, and I think that that's probably the type of deal that you're going to find them doing. I'm concerned about if Randall ever went down, they'd be pretty much left with starting Josh Hart at power forward. So I would like to see them. You mentioned Gallinari. I'd love them to just bring in some guy with size who can give him some minutes at
How about a Bogdanovich from the Pistons?
The Pistons have repeatedly said that they're not moving him. He would be great. I mean, you probably would have to give up at least 1-1 and maybe a young player for him. You don't want to give up. For those type of guys, you don't want to give up Grimes. Grimes seems to be now doing exactly what we had hoped for. He's now finding his rhythm with more playing time. That's part of the deal also. By just giving up those guys, it opened up opportunities for guys who they weren't able to get into a rhythm. Like Grimes seemed lost the first part of the season, and now he's coming in and he's doing exactly what you'd hoped. He's not a guy that's going to break down the defense off the dribble, but you know what? He can occasionally get to the hoop. But, he's going to be pretty consistent from three, which he's been for the last 5 games. He's been money,
I tell you, a very under-the-radar signing the Knicks made in the offseason was Dante DiVincenzo. He's played very well. He's actually a very good defensive player.
Listen, this guy, we both saw what he did in the NCAA finals, a few years ago. The guy is in the perfect spot for him now. He is, which causes me concern to just kind of disrupt it and go get a guy who you're not sure. I saw something today that showed like DeJounte Murray, his ball usage during the game is significantly more than like I think anybody on the Knicks. And that includes Brunson and Randall. So you're always concerned about bringing a guy into the offense who's going to be very ball dominant, So if it was, look, there's no guy that sticks out. You and I spoke earlier today and said a guy who would be perfect. It's never going to happen. But a guy like Desmond Bane would be the perfect guy to get for this team, right?
Right, but that's not happening.
No.
Right, that's not going to happen. So short of that, you know what? Plug in some guys, bring in some guys, some more depth, for the playoffs. Some guys who are going to play good defense like a Brogdon. Maybe I also heard not Trey Jones, his brother. His first name slips my mind now. They're both were point guards at Duke, right? What was his brother's name?
Tyrus, I think.
Tyus.
Yeah, I heard him mentioned. I mean, he was terrific as John Moran's backup.
Absolutely.
So a guy like that, I think ultimately, when the games get tighter, I think it's going to be harder for McBride to be effective because he just doesn't beat people off the dribble. That's my concern.
I'll tell you another thing before we let you go, and it's something we haven't been able to say in years. The Knicks have drafted well. Quentin Grimes, quickly, Robinson, McBride. I probably am missing someone else, but the Knicks have kind of drafted well. No.
Well, look. I crack up at this narrative about Tibbs, just not being a coach for good young players. I'm like, Quickly was. Many people thought Quickly was really no better than a second-round pick. The Knicks took him at 24. Okay, Quickly developed a lot under Tibbs. I mean, Barrett made progress under Tibbs. Listen, the only guy that you want to say maybe didn't make progress was Toppin, but Toppin's on Indiana now, and he was getting minutes, and now his minutes are down.
Yes.
He is what he is. Tibbs didn't draft him. The guys in the front office drafted him.
Sure.
I look at him, and even Brunson. Hasn't Brunson improved since he's been with the Knicks?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. Robinson improved.
And
Under
listen,
Kip,
we all like to knock Randall. Randall definitely has his lapses. He definitely leaves you scratching your head. But we need him to stay upright and be healthy because he's. I don't have the stats in front of me. I bet you he's averaging 5 to 6 assists a game.
listen, Randall makes you scratch your head because you see how talented he is. But like his mental makeup sometimes is, he's loafing on D. He's not boxing out. Like he does things. If people don't, if they want to watch a game and just focus on him on the defensive side of the ball, he could drive you nuts. He doesn't switch in time. He gives up threes because he's just waving at someone. Those things drive me personally nuts. All right, but his offensive production, and sometimes he just pounds the ball too much, like Melo used to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So that drives me crazy too. But yeah, look, he's making $25 million or so a year. He's a bargain for that number in the NBA. He is a bargain, and you know what? He has matured. He's definitely stepped it up this year. And I mean, at this point, he's certainly not untradeable. But you really couldn't see him being moved, especially at this point in the season. Maybe at the end.
Brunson's on a great contract too.
I would never trade him for like Karl Anthony Towns.
Never.
No.
I mean, you're talking about a guy who makes twice as much, isn't as mobile, isn't as reliable. The one thing that Randall gives you is, last year he had a fluke injury last year. He is durable.
That's true. That is true. Jeff, we'll have you back on before the trade deadline, which is February. Is it February 8th?
I think it's February 7th or 8th. It's like first or second week.
So we'll have you back on, and we'll talk some more Knicks. But it's been great to watch. It really has.
Absolutely. Looking forward to. And I just saw that Doncic has been ruled out for tomorrow night.
Oh,
so he's not.
Okay. That could help the Knicks. And Morant's out against Memphis when they play.
Yeah.
Morant's out, and I know Jaren Jackson didn't play last night against Dallas, so I don't know if he's a go for Saturday. But look, if you look at their schedule over the next week or so, they
can reel off wins.
Yeah,
they can reel off some wins here, and really they can get very close to Philly, who's third in front of them right now.
Yeah, 3 games behind them in the loss column.
And the city would become excited again.
The city is excited now.
Listen, you know how this city was in the 90s.
Oh, I do. I do.
I remember watching Dick dance to Go New York, Go New York, Go. Jeff, thank you very much.
Too bad there was no social media back then.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
Bye, Jeff.
Jeff does a terrific job. He knows the NBA.
Yeah,
he really does. And Dick, I had some guys down here. I didn't want to waste time talking with Jeff, but or waste his time with names because they're not happening. But Dejounte Murray, DeMar DeRozan, Terry Rozier, Bogdan Bogdanovic, these are all guys that spot and shoot. I mean, more DeRozan, when the Bulls came to town, he doesn't hit the three, but this guy is smooth as silk, with his mid-range.
He is. He's a pretty good player, but doesn't he take time away from somebody?
Yes. Yes, he does. And that's why you almost don't want to touch this
exactly.
right now.
But you mentioned
Bogdanovic.
No, Brogan. Not Brogan.
Terry Rozier.
No.
I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. Who? Danilo?
No, Brogdon.
Malcolm Brogdon. Yes, Jeff mentioned him.
I'd love to have
him.
him.
If there was a 5-tool player in basketball like baseball, that's what Brogdon is.
Very
bright guy. This portion of the show brought to you by the great Artist Alley, who made the best prime rib for Christmas. Artist Alley, Westchester, Pennsylvania. It's a quick 20-minute to 2.5-hour drive, and you get your haircut there at Suite 12B. She does an incredible job, and she's the best. We'll be back right after this. We are back. This is Sports 845. I am Darin Kunis, and to my right, Dick O'Neill, basketball coach for many years, and we are lucky enough to have on the phone George Tinsley. George was the executive director of the NBA, ABA, Retired Players Association. He's been involved in and around the game of basketball for many years, and a very successful business person. Before I ask you anything about the NBA, George, what type of player was Dick O'Neill? I know he was a great coach. Was he Phil Jackson? Tell me, give me something on Coach here.
I'm glad you mentioned, and first of all, I'm glad to be on your program. Thanks for inviting me. I'm glad you mentioned Phil Jackson because Dick would remind me of Phil to a degree on the court. As slight as he's built, he altered a bunch of shots and was certainly a key component of us winning two NCAA championships D2 that he participated in. So he was a very, very good player.
And he's a good friend of mine for many years, and I think it's great that you guys stay so close, and all your teammates stay so close. My father played at Marshall, and we had a surprise party for him. I want to say his 70th, or maybe it was the 75th or whatever birthday for him. And I spoke to all of his teammates, and they all couldn't wait to come. And the ones that couldn't come couldn't wait to call him and everything. And I think it's great. I think that, I don't know if that's still the case in today's collegiate level, where guys are so close and remain so close. But
well,
in
our time, we played together for 4 years. And with our particular group, we spent one summer traveling abroad in Africa and got to be really close there. So we have, especially our class, Dick and my class, who we came in together, and all of our guys we came in, we graduated. We were the true student athletes, and so. Our families, our wives, and we've all stayed close, and I think that helped bond our particular group.
Well, let me ask you a few questions, because it's funny. I speak to my dad, and Dick is very friendly with my dad. And when we have a few bagel bakeries, and when Dick and my dad sit here and talk, neither one of them really have a love of the NBA game right now. My dad can watch college basketball all day long. He does not like watching the NBA. When you have a 2-on-1 break, and Steph Curry is a great player, but he really did change the game. But when you have a 2-on-1 break, and instead of going to the basket like you're taught, we're dishing it to the right or to the left for a 3 instead of a 2. Is that something that kind of drives you crazy?
No, it doesn't. As a business person, I clearly understand what puts butts in seats, and that's what pays their contract. These TV contracts, and people are going to watch. They want to see scoring. They don't want to see defense, and so I clearly understand it. Now, being a basketball purist from the old school, I understand where Dick and some of our generations are coming from, in that the way we played the game was a little more physical, a little more disciplined to the true game. Today, it's all offense, and it's if you put the ball in the hoop, you're going to get paid, and you're going to get that long-term contract. But if you're a defensive player, it's not going to carry you a long way unless you can put the ball in the hole also.
Everybody has to be a two-way player now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing of it is, George, we didn't have a 3. That was obvious. We couldn't dunk. That was another thing. But we still averaged 85 points a game doing what we did at the college level. And don't forget, that was 8 minutes shorter than an NBA game. So I imagine if we went that, we would have scored 100. But we were still able to score a lot of points doing what we did. And to me, that's the holy grail of basketball. But
yeah, Dick, there's a guy that played with us, our very close friend, that always says we set the standard too high.
Yeah.
We pressed full court after free throws and during the games, and we played a straight ahead game, and we didn't hold the ball. We had a daggone good offense and could put the ball in the hole. So that was that, and we enjoyed it and we loved it. But what I was speaking to in response to the question was that what's keeping this NBA going today, which you got to admit, it's larger than it's ever been, it's more popular than it's ever been. You can't you can't get a decent ticket to a game under 300,
No.
350 to a game. So, the fans are suffering from that vantage point, but they love the game and they're paying the ticket.
As long as they keep coming, they're not going to change
And
anything.
I understand that, George. I understand that it's money is moving the game. Money is moving the game. But just to sit there and watch a game with my grandson is like I could slap him behind his head about every 30 seconds for something that I didn't like that he said, Pop, wasn't that great. But anyway, but the game has changed. I don't necessarily have to like it, but now that the Knicks are doing well, George, I've been enjoying watching a little bit more. So,
George,
there you go. There you go.
What are your thoughts on, and Dick told me not to bring this up, but when Dick was at Kentucky Wesleyan, Dick got $1.8 million a year in NIL money. He told me not to say a word, but he won't tell anybody. What are your thoughts on these college student athletes now? More so in football, I would imagine, but they're getting paid. Your thoughts on that?
Well, once again, I'm glad to see the guys be able to get money. I would love to see controls around it. The point that you raised earlier, as far as team camaraderie, loyalty to a school, etc. This NIL money is just destroying that, and these portals is destroying that. So. But the guys are getting money. We when we played, we got a little $15 laundry check. And possibly you got a little bit more if you knew some alumni. But things change, and I'm not mad at the guys. I just University of Kentucky, is one and done, and that's they look at. The coach there is working for the NBA because he's feeding more players into the NBA as a farm club than probably any other coach out there.
That's a good point. But the one, well, maybe there's other good things, but one of the real good things about the NIL stuff and everything, and you saw it in football this year, you saw schools like Liberty go undefeated. And in college basketball, yes, you have your blue bloods. You have your Carolina, Kentucky, UCLA's, Duke, Indiana.
Michigan State's, those teams.
But there's other schools now that are in the game, per se, that right. It almost levels the playing field just a little bit. And you take a guy like, I'm going to use North Carolina for an example because I'm a Tar Heel fan. Roy Williams, it looked like, didn't want the one and done guys. He would rather have 5 Armando Baycots or 5 guys that are not going to be NBA players after year one and build a team. Whereas Calipari, is taking going for a national title every year, taking a flyer on a kid and getting him to go to school for 26 weeks.
Right.
So does level it out a little bit more.
Well, what happened?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Go ahead, Dick.
George, I don't want to interrupt you, but did you hear that Nick Saban retired?
Yes.
And one of the reasons given was he just got tired of the portal and the NILs. He just didn't want to do it.
Well, these kids are free agents.
He just didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, I get it. I can see how an old timer like that, gets sick of it. George, before we let you go, and thank you for coming on, what do you do now? And, you're a tremendous success story, Dick tells me. What do you do?
Well, presently I'm in the restaurant business. We have restaurants in Kentucky, the airport there. We have restaurants in Miami, the airport there. We have restaurants in Tampa, and we did have restaurants on the street that we've recently started to sell.
What restaurants in Tampa?
Well, in Tampa, we have P.F. Chang's, we have Wendy's, we have Columbia, we have Starbucks. We have various different restaurants in each airport.
George, do you know Junior Bridgman?
No, Junior very well. Junior's my partner in Tampa in the Wendy's business.
Yeah.
Okay, because I read a story on Junior Bridgman, and it's I was looking up net worth of some of these basketball players, and Junior Bridgman was right behind LeBron and Michael. He's been incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Junior is probably the most successful athlete that we in basketball that has gotten into the restaurant side of the business. He's not the Michael Jordan and he's not the LeBron James, but he's done extremely well. Great businessman, good guy, very community oriented, very religious, and I can't say anything negative about him. He's done extremely well, and he continues to do well
now,
with his family.
George, where did you get this idea to go into the restaurant business? I understand you played in the ABA with the Kentucky Colonels. Is that where it started?
Well, I have to say the good Lord really has guided my path. I wound up in working for KFC Corporation after playing professional ball and then teaching school and starting to look for to be able to make more money than teaching and coaching. So I got a job with KFC, and a friend of mine who had played with the Colonels, Kentucky Colonels, which I played there also, invited me out. I interviewed for a job, and because of my teaching background, I started working with the Colonel. So we worked together for 3 years, and I learned the business from him, fell in love with it, and the rest was history. I spent 8 years learning the business as an operator. Well, first as a trainer, operator, human resources, franchising, and then I got an opportunity to become a franchisee and started off with KFC, developed up to about 12 restaurants with KFC. Excuse me, and then started diversifying into the airport with the TGI Fridays, which became the number one TGI Fridays in the nation for 9 years. And so, we created a very positive track record, and a lot of opportunities just kept opening up, and we took advantage of them. So now I'm at the point where I'm turning it over to my son.
Do you still look at different franchises to purchase?
We would, yes, if opportunities came available and made sense. We would. I'm not into how big you can be. I'm into running great operations. So, if it's something on the other side of the country, it does make sense. We're not going to touch it. We're only going to touch things that we can take and do an extremely great job.
Understood.
See why I'm so proud of him?
Yes. Yes, I do. George, when Louisville plays Kentucky, who do you root for?
Well, I have a nephew that's a trainer on the University of Kentucky team. So certainly, I have to pull for him probably a little bit more than I do for University of Louisville. Louisville, here's my answer. Really, Louisville didn't recruit me out of high school, nor did Kentucky. So I have no allegiance to either one of them.
Gotcha. Understood. Louisville's really not very good this year.
Yeah, well, George was in attendance when Kentucky Wesleyan beat him in the beginning of the year. Yeah. So
the coach of the U of L team is a friend of mine, Kenny Payne. I wish him all the luck in the world, but he's having a very, very tough time. He inherited a poor program, and it's going to take a while to turn it around. I just don't think the people there have the patience to stay with him, and
that's the problem.
Yeah, it is.
There's still a lot of people there upset because of what happened with Pitino, and so they're not having any patience with anybody unless somebody's coming in there and winning right away.
Before I let you go, and this is a question for both of you, because both of you saw both of these guys play. And after listening to an argument, and I'll tell you what the argument was about, I saw one of them play. I didn't see the other. But after they got done debating, I sided with the player I didn't see play. You're starting a team tomorrow, and you need a 5. And the two guys on the board are Shaquille O'Neal and Moses Malone. George, who do you take?
I would take Shaquille O'Neal because I don't know who the other 4 are, but Shaquille, from an offensive and just a pure, today, today's game it's so much different, but I'd take Shaquille.
Dick?
Well, I'm a big Moses Malone fan. You know,
After I got done,
I-
Moses Malone 6 times was All NBA, led the league in rebounding many times, more rebounds than Shaq. And when the games counted in the playoffs, the guy was unbelievable.
And that was one of
And
my.
I didn't see him play.
That was one of my
In his
favorite
prime.
teams with the Doctor and Drew McGinnis and
Bobby Jones,
and the guard.
World Be Free,
No,
Doug Collins.
No.
Yeah, they all played with
Billy
Billy
Cunningham.
Cunningham. Who was
Yeah.
George? Who was the guard? He. Oh God.
For who?
For who?
Phil,
Maurice Cheeks?
Maurice
Cheeks?
Cheeks.
Maurice
One of my
Cheeks.
favorites. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
Mo set that team for me, so
Yeah.
I would go
Yeah,
there. I would go.
You
Mo.
couldn't go wrong with either one,
No.
but it depends upon who the other four guys are
I agree.
and whether you're playing at the time when they played or you're playing today. Today, neither one of those guys would be. Everything's built around 3 points, and neither one of them can shoot from three.
Right.
And so and both are somewhat slow, so they'd have a tough time today.
When I first was listening to the debate, I said Shaquille O'Neal. Not even close.
Yeah.
But at the end, when they pointed out all the things that Moses Malone did, it kind of swayed me that way a little bit.
Well, here's the problem now. If they were low post players, and George in the NBA or in college and high school, I can't see a kid making an entry pass. People just don't know how to make entry passes into the low post anymore. It's a lost art.
Yeah, Moses is a good friend. I actually coached against him in the Kentucky All-Star.
See, that's
Kentucky
how old George
against
is.
the All-Star
He's friends
game.
with
Yes,
Moses.
right. Yeah, when he came out of high school, so we got to be friends. When I was chair and president of the NBA Retired Players Association, great guy, and it was just sad to see him go. He did a whole lot of things quietly behind the scenes, and of course he played with Dr. J and McGinnis and all those guys. So he had a great record.
He did. Also, what you don't know about George went back to his alma mater, which is a male high school, and he was an assistant coach to
Wade Houston.
Wade Houston, Alan Houston's father. And they had on their team a kid by the name of Darryl Griffith.
Sure, Dr. Duncan's son.
Dr. Dunk, and that got George started on his career there. So George went to Male. George went to Male High School in Louisville, and he was a proud graduate. So
my wife actually babysat Daryl when he was a baby, so we go way back with Daryl.
George, love to have you on again, and thank you very much for the time. Appreciate it.
Well, I enjoyed it, and keep in mind, Dick was a hell of a player. So
I know he was.
Keep that in mind.
I know that. You know why I know that? Because he tells me every day. George, thank you. Happy, healthy New Year.
All right. Happy New Year, guys.
Love
Take
you.
care.
Love you,
Love
brother.
you too, man. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
George Tinsley. We will be back right after this. Village Pizza, the best pizza in the village of Goshen. A million places have pizza in Goshen. You only want to go to Village Pizza, 845-294-7923. They deliver Grubhub, all that stuff, and they really great people and great pizza. We'll be back right after this. We are back. It is Sports 845. I'm Darin Kunis. To my right, Dick O'Neal, and we had Jeff Glotzer on who did a great job with the Knicks and the NBA. George Tinsley, who's a basketball lifer and a very successful business person, and obviously your teammate years ago. And you, after he hung up, you mentioned the story. Why don't you share it?
Well, when I was inducted into the New York State Basketball Coaches Hall of Fame up in Glens Falls, I was doing fine. My family was there, the players were there, the administration was there. But unbeknownst to me, my daughters knew about it, but unbeknownst to me, George flew up and walked into the thing as I'm speaking, and I kind of lost it a little bit there. I had to recover, and it was a big moment for me, and he only made it bigger. So
that's great. And that's what I was talking about. How you guys always, and with my dad, you guys stay in touch. There's it's friendships that are built forever.
The thing of it is when you struggle together, and I'm like basketball. is not a life and death situation, but it's still, when you start down and it's a struggle and you reach the success that we reached, I mean, there's the payoff. So the struggle was worth it for the payoff. And whatever that payoff may be, and to different people, it's different things. And, whatever your motivation is.
Listen, we did our college picks and they didn't turn out so good, but Paul G sent a message that he listens to the show. We hope he continues to listen. And he says, I'm an avid sports fan. I listen to you guys. And he referred to us, more so you, I think, as idiots. But, if you're a sports person and we sway your opinion, look, you're the idiot, not us. But we did not have a good run.
No,
Michigan,
we did not.
what did you think? We'll cover it real quick. I thought the Michigan-Washington game turned on one play. I really do. Michigan came out, and you thought the game was going to be a blowout. Washington got it under control in the second quarter. It's 20-13 Michigan. Washington driving, hits a pass, and they have this Fugazi holding call, which I thought turned the entire game.
Right. I agree. And the next play, he missed the kid running wide open down the other end, which would have gotten him back into the thing. I think if they score there, we see a different game.
That's my point.
But I still think Michigan was better.
I agree 100%.
I think Michigan was
better. I think the best team in the country is Georgia. But Michigan won.
I agree.
Michigan played Washington for the national title, and Georgia's the best team in the country.
And they say they're going to be the best team in the country next year.
And Georgia, Georgia let Florida State know, and it's no referendum on Florida State. They didn't give a damn about the game.
They did.
But Georgia was going out there to kill somebody.
Right.
We mentioned Nick Saban retiring. There's no sense in mentioning names, but Nick Saban, 72 years old, had a record at Alabama of 201-29. He won 7 national titles. Love him, hate him, whatever. He was a tremendous coach, 5-time SEC Coach of the Year. Dick, let's get to the NFL right now. It's a wild card weekend, arguably the greatest weekend in the NFL. Let me give you the games. Cleveland is at Houston. Miami's at Kansas City, where it's supposed to be minus whatever degrees.
The wind chill factor is supposed to be like minus 16. The game will start with a between 0 and 5 degrees, but the wind chill factor is supposed to be maybe one of the top 5 worst conditions to play in NFL history.
We'll see if Taylor Swift shows up to that game. Pittsburgh goes to Buffalo, where I'm sure the weather's not going to be great either.
No.
Green Bay at Dallas, Rams at Detroit, Allie's Eagles go to Tampa. And it's surprising. They have, what do they call it in the NFL? Black Monday, where they fire coaches.
Right.
I was surprised Mike Vrabel was fired.
I'm kind of shocked, and I'm kind of shocked that Pete Carroll was fired today too. That surprised
Those
me.
two surprised me.
Yeah.
Vrabel, he had Tannehill, who didn't have a good year, and then he had a rookie quarterback.
Right.
But Tennessee, if the season started today, that team was getting better and better each week. And you don't fire a coach off for getting better and better.
They had nothing to play for on Sunday, and they just beat up. That game was. They played really, really well. You're right. They got better. They really
did.
got better.
And the Vrabel thing convolutes the Bill Belichick thing now. If Belichick leaves New England, I can't imagine them hiring anybody but Vrabel.
Yeah, but on the same token, I think they want to maybe let go of that because they're hip to hip, Vrabel and Belichick.
Perhaps.
I think maybe they want to let go of that a little bit. I don't know. But if he goes there, that's no shock to me. That would be no shock to me.
And do you think Allie's Eagles, if they lose in Tampa, is Sirianni on the hot seat?
Well,
he's on the hot seat. Is he fired?
I don't think so. They'd have to give him another year just based on being in the Super Bowl last year.
One would think. But Philly's crowd is not the easiest.
No, I understand.
In the AFC, the number 1 seed is the Ravens. The number 1 seed in the NFC is the 49ers. All year long, I've said 49ers, Ravens. But if you're looking to make a little money, Paul G. and Sparrowbush, you might want to take a flyer on the Buffalo Bills. I think they're playing well now.
They're really playing well. They're really playing well. Particularly, they got off to a bad start on Sunday and come back and just dominated the second half.
Yes.
Just dominated the second half.
Yes. When we come back, we're going to do our picks. And we'll do that and we'll get out of here. We'll do our NFL picks as soon as we get back. Orange County Bagel with 4 locations, 4 terrific locations: Washingtonville, Walden, Goshen, and Middletown. Catering website. Go on to orangecountybagel.com and you'll find us. We'll be back right after this, and we'll do our NFL picks. Sports 845 Wild Card Weekend. Dick, before I get to Wild Card Weekend, I want to ask you one more question. Michigan, Washington. What'd you think of Michael Penix in that game?
I think he in the second half, I think he was beat up a little bit. I think he was a little.
He certainly let you know he was beat up.
Yeah.
He was like LeBron James there. He knew when the camera was on.
He did. I don't think he was ready for the intensity of the Buffalo, their front seven. Michigan front seven.
Okay.
And they were really special.
J.J. McCarthy is a really nice kid.
He is. He's a great kid. A great kid.
You know, someone's going to draft Penix, obviously, and someone's going to draft McCarthy. If the Giants or the Jets, who are going to need a backup, if they took a flyer on either one of those guys or Bo Nix, because I don't want them drafting a quarterback either team in the first round.
Right.
But if they took a flyer on any of those, Bo Nix, Penix, or McCarthy in the second or third round, I'd be fine with it.
Got no problem.
Yeah, Penix to me reminds me of a bigger Tua.
He does.
Dick, you want to do your picks first?
Sure.
Go ahead.
All right. I got Buffalo -10 because I don't think anybody in the East wants to play Buffalo right at the moment. I think they're the conditions they're in. They're at home. I think they're going to cover 10.
Tomlin did one hell of a job this year.
Very good.
He always does.
Very good. Very good. That would be another thing if all of a sudden he got fired, that's not going to happen. Okay. I like Cleveland. Given 2.5, I just think the pass rush and the front seven for Cleveland, as much as their offense is beat up, I don't think
Flacco.
The quarterback
C.J.
Stroud is ready for this intensity. I think when you get in playoff football, it's a whole lot different than the regular season football, particularly at the end of the year. I like KC. Playing at home under frigid conditions with a Miami team that's just they're 0-10 when the weather is below 20 degrees. Okay, I just go with that. I went with Dallas, given 7.5 because I'm just still not a believer in Jordan Love to compete at this level. Dallas has been so good at home. I just think Dallas is too much. I took the Rams, even though I like Detroit. But I'm taking the Rams. I just think maybe just because of the storyline. I think
Stafford going back to
Stafford
Detroit.
coming home, yes, and I think he's
Goff going against his former team.
Right, and the two wide receivers between Kupp and Nakua, I just think they may light up the place, particularly with the the Detroit defensive backs. And finally, I like the Eagles, and I don't know why.
Dick, you and I are almost lockstep, so Paul G. and Sparrowbush is going to have a problem. And Dick, I like Kansas City -4.5. I wish it was 3.5, but I like it at 4.5.
I agree.
I agree. The weather, the whole thing. I think Kansas City kind of maybe loafed through the regular season. They're not as good as they were in previous years, but I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, and I think Kansas City wins the game.
And they have Mahomes, and everybody else doesn't.
Agreed.
Right.
Buffalo, I agree with. Again, the number's a little high for me, but Buffalo is a team that is no one wants to play.
They're on a roll. Yes, they are.
The Cowboys, I agree with. The Cowboys just beat the hell out of mediocre teams at home.
Right.
And I think that'll continue.
Right.
The Eagles, there's no reason to like them. If they were playing anybody but Tampa Bay, who, scored 9 points against Carolina last week in a game they had to have.
Right, exactly.
The Eagles, they didn't give it.
Yeah.
Yes, they wanted to beat the Giants, but that wasn't the thing that concerns me with the Eagles is they've escaped many times this year. They started off 10-1, finished 11-6 or 11-5. Yeah. The injuries to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, but it looks like they're going to be a go. I like the Eagles -3.
Well, if the Eagles lose this one, they have really bottomed out.
Yes.
They bottomed out. If
Yes.
they can't handle Tampa Bay, then
The one game I'm going against you.
okay,
And again, I like the Rams
right.
because Detroit, I think you need to learn how to win before you win. And I think maybe next year might be Detroit's time to win. This could be a learning experience. I like the Texans. I've liked them all year. CJ Stroud has been great. D'Amico Ryans has done a hell of a job there. And they're at home. They're at home on the turf. It's not Joe Flacco of years ago with the Ravens. He's a statue back there. I expect Houston to get pressure. I don't expect a high-scoring game, but I like the Texans to upset the Browns.
Okay.
Those are my picks. Again, if you have a gambling problem, Paul G, you want to call the helpline and not listen to Dick or I. Everybody have a happy, healthy New Year, and we will be back next week.